Okay.
Let's do
Frankie,
it.
the first guy that we're going to be introducing here, everyone, to is Brock Bowers, tight end for the Las Vegas Raiders. Brock Bowers is 6'3", 245 pounds. Love watching this guy play. Frankie, break it down for us. Tell us a little bit about Brock Bowers.
John, Brock Bowers is absolutely one of those guys that are going to get drafted in fantasy football leagues. Guys, this is somebody that we need to drill in on. So let's give a little bit of background into his current situation. He's on the Las Vegas Raiders, as you mentioned, and he's walking into a fairly great situation, John. Right? He has Devontae Adams. He also has Myers there, who was already drafted from Notre Dame last year as a tight end. So they're going to be able to run some good quality 2 tight end sets. And then you bring into the fold the running back situation, right? To where they have Zamir White, to where they have now Alexander Madison. And here's the interesting thing that nobody's really talking about, man. It's the quarterback situation. Why is this interesting? Because the reality situation is they don't have elite quarterbacks, dare I say, not even that great of quarterbacks. So what this means, man, is tight ends are going to be that safety blanket for Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. Whoever that is going to be able to get the rock to the tight end. So let's talk a little bit more about Brock Bowers, man. So since 2000, this is crazy. There's only been 5 tight ends actually selected in the top 10 picks in an NFL draft. He's now the 6th. So when you start trying to understand how good of a player this is, it never happens that a tight end goes in the top 10. So John, let's talk a little bit about a comp here, man. And one comp that comes to mind to give you listeners and viewers somebody to kind of attach whoever the hell we're talking about to, this case it being Brock Bowers, his comp, man, is going to be George Kittle. John, the reason why is because when we start looking at George Kittle's route trees, when you start looking at the way Brock Purdy and other quarterbacks, right, have gotten the rock to that of George Kittle, and then you start looking at side-by-side comparisons, especially on the film, I mean, dude, it's almost like a carbon copy here. Very similar size and stature, very similar route trees, and honestly, very similar types of weapons from a receiver perspective around. I didn't even mention Jacoby Myers. I didn't even mention Trey Tucker for Brock Bowers on the Vegas Raiders, in addition to Devontae Adams. You think about that at the 49ers, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Brandon Ayuk, right? And now you have Ricky Pearsall. You have some of these other guys that are coming up, and John, it's a good situation. So for me, man, when you look at a guy, Brock Bowers, who put up 56 receptions last year, 714 yards and 6 touchdowns, and you look at that comp to that of George Kittle, it's a match made in heaven.
Let's look at it from a fantasy perspective here now, Frankie.
Cool.
So Brock Bowers is being drafted. His ADP right now is about 101. That's about 8th round. He's the tight end 11 off the board.
Okay.
That's a starting tight end, man, in a 12-man league. So we're looking right around the same tier and range of an Evan Engram, David Njoku, Dalton Schultz, Pat Freiermuth, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, there's a lot of guys there that are pretty talented and proven guys. So when you're on the board and you're looking at round 8, you're like, all right, now's the time I want to grab my tight end. When you're looking at those guys he's around, how are you breaking that out? I mean, are you willing to take a risk on a rookie like that when you're in that position?
Great question, John. For me, man, it depends. If Evan Engram or David Njoku's still on the board, that's who I'm going with. I'm going with tried and true. I'm going with guys that had career years in the last 2 years. That is who I'm going with. When you start bleeding into that of the Fergusons and the Freiermouths, right? Firemouth here, the Steelers, that's where I'm going to be willing to take a risk. Because the reality of the situation, man, is it's not going to be that difference in a discrepancy from top to bottom in regards to those guys in terms of their ceiling output in fantasy football, right? So for me, man, that's when you can take one of those guys. You might be playing the tight end game anyways, so why not get the number 1 tight end out of this draft and arguably the best tight end prospect since that of Kyle Pitts? So for me, man, I would be willing to take a risk on drafting somebody like that of Brock Bowers over that of some of the other cats, as long as for me, it's a teardrop from Evan Ingram's and Njoku, and then after that is when I'd be willing to take that risk.
Are you worried about the quarterback play at all? I mean, right now it's looking like it's Aiden O'Connell's team at the moment. That might be the best option for them for their future anyway. I think Gardner Minshew is only on a 1-year deal anyway. Do you see a difference really between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew as far as Brock Bowers' value?
John, I do slightly. And actually, for me, I do see it more geared towards that of Gardner Minshew. The reason being is because Gardner Minshew targeted Jelani Woods often, right? Gardner Minshew did a lot of exciting things around the red zone as well, specific to his tight ends, versus that of Aiden O'Connell, to where a lot of his tight end or his red zone threat was Devontae Adams. And a lot of the middle of the field was more Jacoby Myers. So when I'm thinking about the difference in quarterback play, certainly I agree with you. Aiden O'Connell absolutely could be that guy in the future for that of the Las Vegas Raiders if he gets the head nod. If it's Gardner Minshew, I think for me that's even more exciting for Brock Bowers because he's just been known to be the guy that absolutely has targeted that of number one, his number one receiver, but more importantly, in this particular instance, that of tight ends.